No swords were harmed in the making of this video. This happened when most of the video was already finished, so I'm still going to upload it. Take it with a grain of salt though, because my model was obviously flawed. Also, take into consideration that I only got the Hubert because this happened. So 2 out of 3 Kvetun feathers broke on me. Not an amazing track record if you ask me, but I will address this further in the end of this video. So for now, let's start with the review. This is Hubert. Hubert belongs in the category of feathers with long ass fuller, where the whole blade is one long ass fuller. More and more companies are hopping onto this big ass deep fuller blade trend, and this is Kvetun's take on it basically. But why care? This is the Kvetun standard feather, 134 cm long and 1.6 kg. This is Hubert with 132.5 cm but only 1.42 kg. Making the blade lighter, however, is only one part of the truth. Companies were able to make normal blades with the same specs, for example the Krieger Armory F1. But there's a little difference. The Hubert is light, alright, but Kvetun didn't raise no bitch, and this is where the fuller comes in. It makes the blade thick, to ensure decent durability while keeping the blade as light as possible. That's the theory. But how does Hubert hold up? It develops sharp nicks more often than not. It is however made from the same steel as their standard feather, which doesn't suffer from this issue. I noticed a similar thing with the Ensifer Corona feather, and only one thing came to mind, and that's the blade geometry. Since it comes down to 2 very acute angles at the edge, there is less material supporting the edge, like on a fullerless sword, that has an angle of around 90 degrees. And now a question to the Aureus boys. Does this happen to the Aureus feathers too? Is this a thing of feathers with deep fuller? The second problem with Hubert is another one though. You know, Hubert is kind of like an exhibitionist. He has this very big and comfortable coat on, but he really likes to flash his private parts. It hasn't happened with this one yet, but it's the same thick cord that they use on their standard feathers. While it is more durable than leather, it isn't as durable as the cord other companies use. The S-shaped guard and the long fuller are amazing, and the blue gives it a very elegant look. It would even look better with a thickened point, like some other feather that looks oddly familiar to this one. Since Hubert's blade is a lot broader too, the point is nearly double the size of a normal feather, and disperses the force on impact of a thrust significantly. Like, this is a second crossguard. Paired with a flex of around 11 kilograms, this would make for a really safe training tool. If you grind it down after every sparring. It does not need to be a lot, just take some sandpaper and grind his blade a little, yeah? It doesn't take very long. I really made that joke. Now for the most important thing. Hubert doesn't feel like 1.42 kilograms, more like 1.6 kilograms, but with 200 grams missing. I'm not joking, it's hard to explain. What I mean is, due to the point of balance 9.5 centimeters away from the cross, it gives a lot of presence to the blade while keeping the sword itself very light. Some people might say it feels a lot more like a sword. So, it handles like a 1.6 kilogram standard feather, but still kinda different. Since the sword is so light, moving the point of balance further out was a good choice, but I think they went a little too far. Pun intended, because the point of balance is so far out, the center of percussion is not at the point anymore, it's further in, and this is confusing. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it does make the sword a little less appealing and does take time to get used to. It also takes away of that myth that swords that have a lot of blade presence also have a lot of point presence, but it's not the case here. After sparring with it, I picked up the Kvetun standard for a round and I immediately felt hyper aware of the point again. This is a trade-off between light and agile while still having as much punch as possible, and point control. If you are primarily a cutter, it shouldn't concern you too much. Cutting has never been this easy and with so much punch behind such a light blade. There is another issue though, handling wise. If you're one of those people that like to grope the pommel, then you might want to ask Kvetun to make your Hubert with something different from this wheel pommel. This wheel pommel has this hole, and it looks cool alright, but it is basically a finger trap. I don't know if it is enough to injure yourself with it, but it's not a pleasant feeling, and after some flourishes, you end up in there. If you don't grip the pommel, the edges of the pommel still rub against your hand, which is a little annoying. You don't notice it with gloves on though. I would recommend everyone who cares more about comfort than looks to simply go to the standard pear-shaped pommel. It could even be that it fixes the center of percussion issue. Since the pear-shaped pommel might have more mass to it, I think, that might bring the point of balance closer to the cross and move the center of percussion further to the point. I think Kvetun could solve two problems with one fix. Fill up the hole in the pommel, it would make the wheel pommel more comfortable and might move the center of percussion to the point. Conclusion. This is not a sword for everyone. If you search for a sword that feels different than your usual standard feather and looks really cool, this might just be for you. Just be aware that the center of percussion is not where it should be and think about pommel choice, as well as where you live, because you might need to pay customs, which makes this sword, for me personally, 60 euros more expensive than the 350 euros it already costs. With all its drawbacks, it still is an amazing sword and I wouldn't want to give it away. It feels different, has an amazing look to it, and still has some impact behind each blow. And I stand by that statement. This is recorded after I reached out to Kvetun and they decided to send me two swords in return. One will be another Hubert and the other one a rapier too. Together, well worth over 700 euros, including customs. Customer service doesn't get much better than this. I also reached out to the German HEMA Facebook group and learned a few interesting things. Kvetun provided the swords for Swordfish 2019 and 5 of these swords broke. Later, it turned out that there were problems with the production. That was around the time I bought my first feather from them. It seems Kvetun was pretty transparent about this and fixed this problem. So I have no problem saying it probably was just bad luck that the Hubert broke. What we all agreed on was the superior customer service Kvetun provided. One of the guys from the Facebook group ordered 2 sabers and one of them started to bend. Kvetun decided to send 2 new sabers in return, so my case isn't a one-time thing. To confirm, I also asked about people's experiences in the WM subreddit, and the general consensus is that Kvetun blades hold up just fine. With the Hubert I have to agree with this guy, it takes nicks a lot more than other swords, but as long as you grind it down it shouldn't be a problem. Regarding the standard feather I have to disagree, both of mine never got that much nicks. Not more than other swords, but the Hubert did. With that said, now just some stupid ideas I had, and outtakes if that's what you wanna call them. Hey Hubert, we have a problem. Wait, it doesn't fit. No, the protection doesn't fit. Wait, what do you mean by that makes you proud? You know, some people want to use protection. Huh? No, I don't think everyone has the self-control to pull back from a good thrust. I mean, I don't think I could pull out on a committed thrust. You know, it's very ecstatic to land one. Kinda satisfying, really.
Alter.
Now I have the perfect home trainer. This is great. I even get 2 new swords. Why does this feel illegal? Am I allowed to feel this happy about the broke sword? Can a company actually be this nice? What's the meaning of life?